This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. If you sign up to CuriosityStream with the link in the description, you'll also get access to Nebula, where you can watch all of my videos early and ad-free. And you'll also be able to watch my new original series, Polyphonic Magazine, when it debuts next month. More on that after the video. Oh, and if you like what I do, maybe subscribe? When you really think about it, it's a pretty impressive feat to have a song become a top 10 single. At any given moment, there are thousands of songs out there in the ether. To crack the top 10, a song needs to be familiar enough to resonate with a wide audience, but distinct enough to separate itself from the pack. And perhaps more important, a song that wants any sort of longevity on the charts needs to tap into the cultural moment of its release. But what might be even more difficult than entering the charts is re-entering them. The vast majority of songs have their day in the sun and then fade away to be forgotten. Occasionally, usage in a movie or show will help a song re-enter the charts, but it seldom reaches its previous heights. Unless, of course, you're Kate Bush. As I write this video, Running Up That Hill is in the middle of an 8-week run in the top 10, and for 3 weeks of that, it held the #1 spot, thanks in no small part to its usage in Stranger Things. And that's not the first time that Running Up That Hill has hit the UK top 10. In fact, it's not even the second time. This summer is the third time in 3 different decades that Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill has cracked the UK top 10, a frankly miraculous achievement. So how is it that a song was able to evoke such a strong reaction from so many different people living in such different times? Let's take a closer look. In the early days of Kate Bush's career, she seemed unstoppable. She got her start at just 16 with a mixtape that featured the help of David Gilmour and went on to top the charts with her debut single. When she released her third album at the start of the 80s, Kate Bush became the first female solo act ever to top the UK album charts. But for all of her success, Bush found herself in a state of personal turmoil in the early 80s. At just 22 years old, she was one of the biggest stars on Earth, and was struggling with the pressures that came along with that fame. So she decided to start experimenting. Inspired by collaborations with Peter Gabriel, Bush discarded traditional pop stylings in favor of cutting-edge music technology. She started working with Fairlight CMI synthesizers and gated drums, layering in effects like banging irons, didgeridoos, and even animal impersonators. The result of this experimentation was The Dreaming, an album that achieved some critical acclaim, but flopped in terms of sales. This put Bush at odds with her label, who were hoping for something easy to package and sell from an artist that was supposed to be a guaranteed hitmaker. So Bush decided to make some serious life changes. She moved away from her South London home to a 17th century farmhouse in the Kent countryside, and built her own recording studio so she could make music at her own pace without having to worry about the label. "The stimulus of the countryside is fantastic," she said at the time. "I sit at my piano and watch skies moving and trees blowing, and that's far more exciting than buildings and roads and millions of people." This sojourn away from the city worked almost instantly. In a single summer evening in her music room, overlooking the valley below, Bush wrote a new song that she tentatively titled "A Deal with God." In the song's sparse lyrics, Bush spoke of an impossible wish to switch places with her lover so that they could better understand each other's experience of the world.
Do you wanna feel how it feels? Yeah. Do you wanna know that it doesn't hurt me?
These themes had a wider significance for Bush as well. She loved performing in character and resisted being defined by her background, looks, or gender.
Come on, angel. Come on, darling. Let's exchange the experience.
And And the music came to Bush just as easily as the lyrics. The most iconic parts of the song that would become Running Up That Hill were present from the very beginning. The spacey Fairlight synthesizer riff and the pulsating electric drums formed the foundation of the song. The use of these technologies was something Bush had learned in her experimentation, but now she was applying them to something that was tighter and catchier. And Bush knew that Deal with God could be a hit. When EMI came around demanding a commercial single, she fought to make it Deal with God. It took some coaxing, but EMI agreed, conditional on one thing. They thought the original title might reduce its airplay in more religious countries, so they asked for a name change. Kate Bush conceded, so Deal with God became Running Up That Hill. And from the moment it dropped, it was clear that Bush had a hit on her hands. Running Up That Hill climbed to number 3 on the UK charts, while Hounds of Love knocked Madonna off the top of the album charts. This success cemented Kate Bush as more than just a flash in the pan, and finally EMI started trusting her to fully produce her own music, which allowed her to release at her own pace in the coming decades. As Bush put it, EMI left me alone at that point. It shut them up. For a lot of artists, this would have been where the story ends, but Bush was always an exception. In August 2012, Bush released a remix of her own song. That version used the backing track of an extended version with new vocals recorded over it. This new version premiered during the 2012 Summer Olympics closing ceremony. And people loved it. It re-entered the UK top 10, though this time it didn't garner international attention. But in 2022, lightning struck a third time, when the song was featured prominently in Stranger Things. There's a good chance that that's what brought you to this very video. Following the premiere of Stranger Things, Running Up That Hill climbed to the UK singles chart for a third time. It reached number 2, but it was hampered by the bureaucracy of the charts, with a rule that undervalued songs re-entering. Bush's label made a request to suspend the rule given the song's continued popularity, and the charts agreed. So finally, on June 17th, 2022, nearly 37 years after it was first released, Running Up That Hill became a number 1 hit. So why was Running Up That Hill able to accomplish this rare feat and re-enter the zeitgeist? I think that some of it has to do with the moment we're living in. We're currently neck deep in an 80s nostalgia cycle. Often these 80s throwbacks will use synth tones and electronic drums to put us in a certain state of mind. And Running Up That Hill represents some of the best execution of these aesthetic concepts. Bush uses the synth aesthetics to create a unique sort of sound that's haunting but uplifting. There's a sort of ambiguity to it, touching a primal chord deep within us. And this is underlined by the lyrics, which depict a desire to both understand oneself and to create distance. It taps into the kind of spiritual turmoil that everyone feels at some point in their life. For a lot of us, that's what we felt these past few years. Global circumstance has us wondering what things might be like if we were born in a different time, a different body, or a different world. But even in this turmoil, Running Up That Hill leaves us with hope. Bush has an optimism in her darkness, and that helps us persevere. Running Up That Hill is so successful because, despite its quintessentially 80s sounds, its themes are timeless. It's a sonic expression of our yearning to connect in personal times of crisis. And by expressing her own conflicts, her own need to connect, Bush tapped into a feeling that can be renewed generation after generation. And who knows, 30 years from now, when the Stranger Things nostalgia cycle hits, maybe Kate Bush will find herself climbing into the charts once again. I've always loved music magazines. The aesthetic and glamour of editorial cover spreads, the insights you get from extended conversations with artists, it's really what made me start Polyphonic in the first place. And it's why I'm so excited to tell you guys about my upcoming Nebula original, Polyphonic Magazine. Polyphonic Magazine is going to be a monthly video series that smashes together the beauty of an editorial feature and my own video essay process. Each month, I'll be interviewing smaller artists who I probably wouldn't be able to cover on YouTube and turning these conversations into feature-length video essays. There's going to be some more stuff beyond that, but I'm not quite ready to announce everything just yet, so keep an eye out. This is a project I'm really excited about, and it's a project that just could not happen on YouTube. On YouTube, I'm reliant on the algorithm, so I can't really cover smaller, less-known artists, no matter how interesting their stories might be. But on Nebula, I don't need to worry about that. I can actually just create the content that I want to create. That's kind of the whole point of Nebula. We built it as a streaming platform to make creators' dream projects come true. If that's something you want to support, the best way to do so is by following the link in the description. And here's the great thing, following that link doesn't just get you access to Nebula, you'll also have full access to CuriosityStream, the streaming service dedicated to documentary content. So that means while you wait for my Nebula original to drop, you can keep yourself entertained with great film composers, a fantastic series that documents the history of film music. That series starts at the birth of film and progresses all the way to the modern age, telling stories of iconic greats like Ennio Morricone, John Williams, and Howard Shore. And there's plenty more where that came from. CuriosityStream has thousands of hours of documentary content just waiting for you to give it a shot. If you like the sound of all of this, you can sign up for an annual plan for just $15 by following the link in the description. That's not $15 per month, by the way. That's $15 for an entire year of fantastic documentary content and exclusive original series from your favorite YouTube creators. So why not give it a shot? Be sure to use the link in the description to get that deal and to let them know that I sent you. And thank you for watching.